Okay, so we're ready for the next step on our clay masks. Just to review, last time we started rolling out slabs and you were just supposed to cut the base piece of your mask. So that outline from your sketch, that shape is what we wanted to try and cut out last time. If you didn't get that far, you'll start with that today. Make sure that you remember the thickness of the clay. Use those rulers to roll it out at table 1. And make sure that you're getting the right thickness. If it's too thick, it blows up in the kiln. If it's too thin, it will crack when it's dry. So you want to make sure that you check the right thickness. If you're ready for the next step, we have to move our clay from our plate that we stored it on with a paper towel over to a mat. So I'm going to very carefully take my plate to my seat, and I'm going to take the clay slab that I made last time, and I'm going to place it on one of those mats so I can be working at my table to do the next steps. So I'm going to place this here. I have some tools ready to go. I still have my sketch next to my work so that I can be checking which shapes I need to add. We're going to talk about scoring and slipping those next shapes today. So on the clay cart, there are containers that look like this. This is slip. If I open it up, it basically looks like watered down clay, okay? Now there's tools to use if you don't want to use your finger to apply the slip today. But you're gonna need that. Just one per table will work. There's different tools. There's forks, there's the knives we talked about last time, wooden tools, these are called ribbon tools, and of course the needle tool as well. You can grab what you need, but always make sure you clean them off when you're done with them and you return them to the right place on the cart. So our next step here is to start cutting out the shapes of your eyes, nose, mouth, different shapes that you drew on your sketch. Now I saved some of the slabs that I cut out last time, so I'm going to put those off to the side and use those for these shapes. You might need more clay, and that's fine. You can always get that from me, but try to use up the scraps that you saved first. So for example, I'll start with one of my eyes here. So I'll use some of this clay that I have left over, looking at these big shapes. In order to use my clay up, I'm gonna make those just a little bit smaller. So I basically have a large oval shape here. I'm gonna cut that out of my scraps to use. It might not be exactly the same. And I wanna smooth those edges. All these shapes that we're adding, all these new pieces of clay have to be smoothed out. They have to be the right thickness, and they have to be scored and slipped. So once I've got the shape that I want, I'm ready to attach it to my mask. So the first thing I need to do is score it. Now you can use either a fork or a needle tool to score, because those give us a nice scratch. So for example, the needle tool, I'm going to go to the back of my shape and I'm going to scratch the heck out of it. Scratch, 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 scratch. That is called scoring. All right. I'm also going to scratch where I want my eye to go. So I can even give myself an area here where it's going to go. I'm going to scratch that clay that I'm attaching it to in that area also. These two pieces kind of fit together like a puzzle. But it also needs something to stick, which is where the slip comes in. So I'm just going to use my finger. Slip acts as glue to make sure that pieces of clay attach to other pieces of clay. I'm going to put the slip on the back side, and I'm going to push it into my clay. Don't push too hard. We don't want to flatten out the thickness, but we want to make sure it's attached. Now I can use my finger here to smooth out those areas that I didn't quite cover up. The wooden tools also work as really good smoothers. I can use the edge of the tool to smooth if you can't get your finger in those areas. If a tool would work better, that would be fine to use, but really smooth out everything that you add. What I want you to think about while you're adding your shapes of clay today for your different facial features is to layer up. Okay, so I've got my base layer and now an eye layer. I'm going to go another layer for the eyeball part of my eye. So using up the scraps that I have here, cutting out that next shape is another piece of clay I'm going to add on top of what I just added. Smoothing out the edges, checking the thickness, making sure that's okay. I'm going to scratch. This time I'll scratch with the fork. That makes more scratches at one time. It goes a little faster. And I'm also going to scratch where I'm placing it. And I need some slip on the back of my shape. And I am going to attach it. And again, I can smooth using either my finger or a tool, whatever is easiest, to really make sure that stays on there after I score and slip. Like so. And then I've got part of my eye started. So what I want you to think about today is using up those slabs you've already rolled out if you can. I'm not going to have enough to add all these shapes, so I will have to roll out some more clay. But each piece of clay, each shape that you add that's part of your mask has to be scored with either a fork or a needle tool. Work as really good scratching, scoring tools, and then apply that slip that acts as glue to make sure that it stays on. That's what we're going to focus on today.